Hi, welcome to the Module 2 of the Data Migration Framework course. I am Krupesh Desai, your trainer for this course and the author of the book Data Migration Framework. In this training, we will learn about the first foundational component of the framework, that is, the data migration scope. Defining the scope of data to be migrated is one of the most significant activity when retiring a legacy business systems with decades of transactional data. This activity is not merely a technical task. It involves a comprehensive assessment of the sheer volume of the legacy data. It addresses business questions about what data should be migrated, what data should be retained, and what legacy data can be purged or archived. It is a cross-functional business decision where stakeholders from multiple business units, especially operational experts, data management leadership, and the legal or compliance team should be involved. Let's dig deeper. First of all, prevent yourself from decision paralysis and avoid the lazy approach of let's migrate everything, which has a high potential to become a risk magnet of inefficiencies bundled with cost and delays in the new system, which is deployed after investing millions. Rather, think logically and assess the amount of legacy data needed in the new system based on two factors: operational continuity and compliance achievements. The most critical selection criteria for legacy data to be part of the migration scope is actually its relevance to ensure uninterrupted continuity of business operations in the new system when business users or employee need access to open or close business transactions to perform their job. Here are some mundane examples of operational continuity post data migration. In the healthcare setup, patients are admitted via legacy hospital management system, but they are to be discharged from the new system. Scheduling an appointment for a patient in the new system from a waiting list created by the legacy patient management system. A clinician wants to access the last appointment notes of a patient with an annual follow-up appointment, but the last notes were captured in the legacy system. Apart from the healthcare, some other example I could think of was an order is captured in the legacy system, but the items sold are to be dispatched from the new system. User wants to access a customer sales history, including the last time the customer purchased an item 3 years ago when the legacy system was operational. Coming to the banking, a home loan application is captured in the legacy system, but the assessment process will start in the new banking system. Now that you know what exactly I mean by operational continuity, you must consider the data you need immediately post migration. That is, within minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and at least a year after the retirement of the legacy system. Legacy data of open and recent transactions are a must have in the migration scope to avoid interruptions in processing ongoing business operations after the cutover. But you also need to do a bit of time travel and anticipate future events that may need legacy data captured in the old system. Apart from the open and recent transactions, you also need to factor in the number of instances of legacy system. Whether there is a single centralized instance or multiple instances of the legacy system at various business locations with different lifespan and any past or present integrations, including manual data reconciliation between business types. When you have several instances of legacy system, you will encounter challenges reconciling duplicate records and ensuring data consistency in the new system. For example, if a customer or a patient record exists in multiple instances of the legacy system, you need to establish business rules that specify which record is deemed the most current. We have a whole chapter dedicated to business rules, so don't panic now. After a number of instances, factor in the suitable migration approach, whether it will be a phased or a big bang. Big bang, as the name suggests, is one big push into the new world across the enterprise. Whereas Phased is more gradual rollout of the new system across different business locations or business unit, keeping the legacy and the new system running in parallel. Therefore, carefully assess the feasibility, viability, and desirability of keeping two systems running with the phased approach or jumping into a new world with one big push with the big bang and some drum rolls. The big bang or phased decision is not only about the volume of the legacy data, but it also considers the complexity of the change management, which includes timely communication and training for a significant number of people affected by the change. Legacy data of historical or close business transactions and demographics of the entity related with those past transactions can also qualify to be in the migration scope to ensure the adherence of policies, laws, and regulation, or even industry specific guidelines about the legacy data retention. While you define what is in the scope for migration, you must address decisions about what happens to the legacy data out of the scope. Is it to be archived or deleted forever? It is worth noting that organizations with higher data governance maturity would have a role such as enterprise data architect or similar role who could rightly recommend you to leverage existing data archival policy to then decide what to do about the data out of the scope from the migration. Such a stakeholder can also liaise with the existing data management team about the refactoring of integration, be it a system integration or integrations for data warehouse and report. So if you have such resource, leverage them. In a diverse cases though, where the data maturity is low, some stakeholders may expect or suggest that the data archival decision is part of the data migration project. So please get the stakeholder expectation right from the beginning. Coming back to the scope, your business analyst may suggest that we are good with the last 3 years of data in the new system. But your legal team may recommend to migrate last 10 years of data because of certain data retention laws and policies. Even when you know you are going to migrate last 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, please define what is the year. It is a financial year or a calendar year. And which particular date, which attribute in the legacy system you can use to filter out that scope. You will need a date, right? So please clarify these details and then make sure that you are archiving the data not required in the scope or you are purging it based on the policies that you have. After accommodating all needs and suggestions of various stakeholders, you will end up with multiple options for the scope selection, each with a distinct set of risks and benefits. Leverage the data migration plan to propose all possibilities with related risk and capture the stakeholder decisions on the option picked. Please note that there is no golden rule for selecting data migration scope. There is no rule that if you have one centralized legacy system, then you should go with the big bang, or if you have multiple legacy system across multiple locations, then the phased approach is better for you. There's no golden rule as such. And as the consultant would like to say, it depends, and it genuinely depends on your case. And remember, it's not just about the data volume, it's also about the change management, the appetite of the change management for your business. If you can train thousands of people in one go and can do a big bang, if that's feasible, that could be a good choice as well. So it depends on your own scenario. Now, once you have all these options for the scope, I highly recommend to do a bit of risk analysis in your data migration plan. And quantitative and qualitative risk analysis is a well established field, and there's a lot of literature available about it. And I hope you know how to articulate the risk, its impact, likelihood on the business. So let's look at some examples that you can use in your data migration plan. And these are only examples. Please do not copy this straight away into your plan. But this is just to give an idea how you can articulate the risk related with the different data migration scope that you can select. So let's look at the first option, the big bang, full data migration. In simple words, it sounds like let's migrate everything in one go across the all different sites across the enterprise. Now, with this approach, you definitely have risk. First, you're going to migrate a lot of irrelevant data that you don't need actually, the historical data. And because of that, you're going to unnecessarily increase or overwhelm the target system. You're going to introduce unnecessary data quality issues. And eventually, you're going to increase the time it takes to migrate the data on the cutover day. And it from hours, it can easily go into days. So please avoid this approach. Um, you don't need everything in the new system, and especially when you have a system, a legacy system running from last 2 or 3 decades. So think twice before you go with this path. The second option could be let's do a big bang and only the open transaction. So that is, let's migrate all the open transactions in one go across the enterprise. It is feasible if you're not a regulatory sensitive environment, yes, but there are potential risks here that you can, that with this approach, you will lose your closed transactions or past transactions. You're only migrating the open transactions. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of what are the risks of not migrating the closed transactions. What if someone needs in the new system? What if someone needs the legacy data for some reason that was captured in the legacy system? What is the cost of retrieving that data in the new system on demand? If that looks feasible, then this option can also be a good option. Another option is again a big bang, all the open transaction and a time bound closed transaction. So here we are asking to go a big bang across the enterprise with all the open transaction, but we are also going to migrate last 3 years, 5 years, or last 10 years of data based on certain data retention policies and laws. Now, here there are also risks. The risk, as I said, because we have historical data, we need to assess its impact on the overall time it takes to migrate the data on the cutover day. If it's going to take hours and days, I would recommend that you do a two-stage approach where you, on the cutover night, you migrate the open business transactions so that ensures the business continuity. And after that, within a week or month, you can migrate your last 3 years or 5 years of historical data in another stage as an offline operation. And it is less risky and you end up with all the data you need in the new system. Another option is the phased approach where you want to migrate all the open transaction and also time-bound closed transactions. But you're going to do it across different business unit, one after another, or you're going to roll out a new system by different locations of your business. Now, with this approach, it is a good approach, but be mindful of the fact that you're going to run two systems in parallel. What does it mean for your data warehousing, for your reporting, and especially with the phased approach, you have different cutover days for different sides of your business or different business units. So that will also impact the scope. The last 5 years at a site one, which was migrated in, let's say, 2022, would be different from a site which is now migrating in 2024. What is that last 5 years? Is it the same? So there are a lot of these nuances that you need to think of and have some mitigation plan around it. So this is the way you can put forward all the options that you have to go with the different scope and different approach, big bang or phase, and put all the risk in front of the stakeholders and let them decide what is the best option and document that in your data migration plan. So I don't want you to, you know, get yourself overloaded with the information. I'm glad to inform you that this is the end of this first session. And from here onwards, every time you see end of a session, you will end up with the questions for your own project. So here are the list of questions that you need to find answers for your own data migration project. Take a moment to look at those questions and think how many answers you readily have and how many questions you need to go back and investigate further. Thank you so much for participating in this training.